Isaac Quaynor, welcome to the podcast, brother.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Bro, this has been sick, mate. We're here in Richmond. We're here in Melbourne. At first, I feel like I've got to thank my auntie for letting us crash here.
Shout out to her.
Yeah, she's doing good here in Richmond. We walked down, had a little coffee. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. This is I don't live too far from here, so this is pretty local for me. And Hector's Deli, a great little coffee spot as well.
And we're even saying, like, when we're rolling around in Richmond, mate, you just bump into so many crew. Like, we're just down at the deli there. 100%. You're knocking into like maybe 3, 4, 5 different crew. You're like, fuck, this is awesome, bro.
Yeah, it's a real hub, which is good and bad. Sometimes you want to be a bit more incognito. I often just chuck the AirPods on and head down and stroll through. But you can also be very social and, as you said, bump into all types of people.
And so you've been in Richmond for a couple of years now?
Yeah, about 2.5 years.
You enjoying it?
Yeah, absolutely loving it. I mean, obviously it's super close to training and makes things really easy getting in. I think I used to live in Doncaster, which is about 50 minutes away with traffic. And now it's like 5 minutes at worst.
Bro,
so I get a little bit more sleep, which is great, and don't have to stress as much in the morning, which I love.
Yeah, that was a big thing because when I was playing footy in Sydney, I feel like I grew up on the beach, so I need to be close to the beach.
Yes.
But we were training like an hour away.
Wow.
But for me, I was like, if I'm close to the beach, I would much rather do the travel. But I see the guys who are like in the thick of it and they would just wake up 5 minutes to train. I'm like, man, that's the best.
I think you're right. There's definitely a balance because I sometimes envy a few of the boys that live a bit further out, have a bit more land, a bit more space. And I grew up in the eastern suburbs, with lots of space and a big backyard. So I definitely am a little bit cramped in my apartment, but the location just makes it so worth it.
Eastern suburbs in Melbourne?
Yes, eastern
mate,
suburbs.
What was growing up like? What did it look like for you?
Yeah, so East Doncaster, just a local public school, local primary school, humble beginnings. I'm the oldest of 6, but I grew up with 4 boys. I got a half brother, half sister.
Gotcha.
So very active household, lots of basketball, lots of footy. Just a pretty stock standard upbringing, lots of sport. Tried a bit of everything. And obviously gravitated towards football. What was
the sports that you dabbled in growing up?
Oh man, everything. So my dad's from Ghana, West Africa, and the main sport over there is soccer. So my first sport I ever played was that. Dad was always trying to really push me towards playing soccer.
Naturally.
Naturally. But a lot of my friends didn't actually play it, so they played football and basketball. So I just, I was a social being, so I just kind of followed what my mates did. So started playing school basketball early. I did athletics. I did tennis, obviously football. I loved volleyball in high school. So yeah, honestly, like anything. Like I just love being active.
Do you reckon playing lots of different sports helped you to play footy now? Because you look at crew who did gymnastics or who did like a bunch of different sports. Are they go on and kill it because they've got spatial awareness, coordination, probably like a little bit of confidence? Do you reckon that helps?
100%. And on the note of gymnastics, that's the one that I didn't do.
Gotcha.
And I was always real scared of when like we'd have parties and you go to the gymnastics center.
Yeah.
And that wasn't really my repertoire. I don't move too fluidly. Some of the boys actually laugh about it because I'm so stiff.
Yeah.
But that is one of the sports I wish I'd dabbled in a bit more because you just get that flow and movement. Even like dance.
Right.
Like dance is another one that like it just translates really well to sport. But yeah, definitely. I think, trying a variety of different sports helps for sure.
What's that look at the fighters like Israel Adesanya? Like he loves like dancing, bro.
Yeah.
And he's
look
so
how he
smooth.
moves. Yeah.
Man, it's so like, it's beautiful to watch.
It is. It's poetry. And a few of my teammates can move pretty well. Like TJ Tao Jaff, he's one of my good mates at the club and he's a pretty good dancer. And he plays like it. Like he's so fluid and moves really well. And we always laugh at myself because I'm just like a big, rigid, muscly, just goes straight.
Bro, you walking in here, I was like, I would have picked you as the guy that would be like on the dance floor, like would be very silky.
I'm on the dance floor, but I'm not doing anything other than a 2-step. Like,
Yeah, you just step in. But that's all right. I reckon you can lean into that, bro. I think that's beautiful.
100%. There's room for improvement.
Mate, we'll take that. I did a catch up with some of the crew from Movember this morning.
Yeah.
And one of the girls, she's just like, she loves like, she's gone to like a rodeo tonight.
Awesome.
And she's been like to Austin and
man.
so sick.
Yeah,
and like the honky tonks there. She's like, I was taking like lessons, like dancing lessons, because people would come up to you and ask you for a dance. And I was just like, I feel like if I was to ever go to Austin, I would need to learn how to dance properly, bro.
I'd be lost.
Yeah.
I'd be lost out there, but I'd be I'd buy in for
100%.
sure. And it's like you're somewhere where no one knows who you are. You can make a bit of a fool of yourself and Who
and
cares?
they also love Aussies over there as well. They love the Aussie accent.
It is true.
Because you just got back from New York.
Yep. Pat Lipinski and myself went for a couple of weeks, which was great.
How was that? What was the highlight?
It was incredible. I've been to America once before, but that was when I was 18 and through the AFL Academy. So it was a bit of a sheltered experience. It was awesome, but to be able to go, being 24 at the time, it was just incredible. Like, I love New York. We also did 2 stints of training at 2 different facilities.
Just with you guys, not with the club?
Just with us. So one was organised kind of through a connection through the club, and then the other we just organised ourselves. And tapped into a bit of like running technique, and just got like real specific with, our body types and what gets us going and how we can move as efficiently as possible.
Is that what they focus on? Like, they'll look at body types on how like what's best for you individually specifically?
Yeah, I think what Americans do really well in the sporting field is like they're all over the running side of things. And I think in football, we don't really ever go into as much detail as what they do because we just don't have time. So like it was basically a one-on-one session with a sprint coach around just perfecting the technique of running. And like, I'm 25 now, and I've never really been taught how to run. I've just always been fast, and I've always just been said, like, go run there, and I get there quickly. But there's often a bunch of things that you can really work on.
What were the little things?
So for me, it was like, I always thought with acceleration, it's about quick steps out. But the guy that I was working with in LA, Les Spellman, was actually saying the opposite. Like, big, powerful, strong strides to start gets you out of the gates faster.
Gotcha.
Which I thought was really interesting. And we did some like weighted runs where like you'd have resistance pulling you back, so you almost accentuates those first few steps.
Your steps are longer almost. Yes. Have to be more powerful. Yeah,
more powerful. And for me, that's my bread and butter. That's what type of athlete that I am. And he works with a lot of NFL guys who have similar body types to me, which was awesome specifically for my journey, and I guess him giving me advice around how I can get the best out of my body. It was an awesome trip. Learn a lot, lots of shopping, lots of good food.
Mate, it's your bread and butter,
it was honestly, New York was a highlight. Love Soho especially. Just a really, really cool place.
Bro, awesome. And you would have taken so many of those learnings into pre-season now, because you're in pre-season. I'm sure it's like a very tough time at the moment. How are you feeling getting through it? What's the vibe amongst the boys?
The vibe's great. I mean, obviously kind of a bit of an underwhelming year in regards to results last year. So we're just really excited to kind of bounce back and get a few more wins on the board, and a few new faces, a few guys we traded for. Obviously some draftees as well, so it's a bit of a different feel, which is awesome. But it's been a tough start to Jan. I'm feeling pretty sore right now, to be honest. So.
Mate, you're looking good. You're looking
thank
fit.
you. No, I try my best, but it's been a good little stint. We had a good session yesterday, and we keep rolling.
Who are you excited to see this year? Who's been looking good in pre-season?
There's a few. I think. Like, all our new draftees, like, I'm really excited for. So Dan Houston from Port, just special what he can do with the football. Harry Perriman is just an all-round gun, can do a bit of everything, and I'm really excited to watch him. And then Tim Membry is just such a sharpshooter and beautiful in the air. So like, those three I'm really excited for. But there's another young guy, Reef McInnes, I think has been training really well and recently switched to a defender. I'm just loving the way that he's attacking the footy, and I think Pies fans should be pretty excited about him.
How's our little mate Leggy and Bruzzy going? How
the boys are going well. Leggy's in career best, Nick. He is so fit and so powerful at the moment. So I'm excited for him in 2025, and then the Bruz just
naturally, man.
He's the Bruz. He's ready to rock and roll, and he's going to be a beast out there.
But I've got so much love for those two boys. Like,
they're good fellas, aren't they? Two of the best, honestly.
Two of the all-time greats. Leggy got me into my very first AFL game.
Oh, wow.
It was when you guys played, I think you played Carlton, the semis before.
That's a good one, then.
Mate, it was like MCG, 100,000 crew, and like, it was insane. Like, we rolled in the sheds after. It was really nice, man. It was like very cool first experience.
That's about as good as it gets, to be honest.
Yeah, now my standards like.
I was about to say 100,000 at the G. it's rocking.
Mate, you're probably like over 12 months since the grand final, since winning. Like obviously an incredible achievement. Upon reflecting, like you've obviously done the year this year. Upon reflecting, what was like your favorite memory of that experience?
Wow. Of winning the
grand final, like in like the week leading into it, the game. Like, is there the celebrations? Like, was there a moment that you look back on? You're like, you know what, I'm really going to cherish that. Whether it's a conversation with a coach, a teammate, a parent, family. Yeah. Was there anything that like really stood out for you?
I think there's probably two that I can think of. One was in the change rooms after the game when I had my medal. Just lost the pillow. And I had my family in the change rooms and three of my best mates, and just kind of hugging them and seeing how proud, like especially my mum, like that was really special for me, and like a moment I'll never forget. And also giving them the medal and like being like, you know, they all played a massive role in my journey, and I was just like, that was really cool to kind of share that with them. And then also once we won and the crowd had kind of cleared out of the ground, we stuck around in the change rooms for about an hour or two after the game.
Awesome.
And the whole team huddled around the centre circle and kind of just spoke about like each person's favourite moment of the year leading into it. And it was like, just like, you know, a couple sentences, but I just remember that being like a really special moment where, you know, people got a bit vulnerable or got emotional, and like, you know, some people have been, you know, working towards this moment for 12, 15 years, whatever it is. And that was definitely right up there as well.
Mate, you get like goosebumps like thinking about it still. Like, it's so cool. Tell me about your family. Like you mentioned previously, like how important they played like a role for you of where you are now.
Yeah.
Like what is it about it? Like why were they so important in your journey?
Yeah, well, I guess like, as I said, like grew up with three other brothers, and like I guess the competitive side of me is probably as a result of that. I'm the oldest of six, so I'm the big boss, and I guess that probably, you know, I think in some ways leading comes naturally to me, and I think that's because of my upbringing and because I'm the oldest of the other five siblings. So yeah, I think it was just good fun, and we're a really tight family, and I get along really well with my brothers as well. And Mum did a load of the work, you know, in regards to, you know, driving me all the way around Victoria for basketball, for football.
Things.
It was just, it's pretty cool. And Dad's a massive fan, and probably took him a little bit to, you know, there's just different beliefs with different cultures, and he wasn't, you know, it was kind of more around, you know, Sundays were for church, not for football. And it's slowly shifted, and now he is the biggest fan. Like, he loves it.
So you didn't play on Sunday?
So I somehow weaseled my way out of that system, and I got to play every week. But my brothers had to play every second week for a year or two, and then the coach eventually convinced Dad that, you know, it's worthwhile letting the boys play every week. And he's done a complete 180. Like, my little brother Pazel, who's you know, quite a lot younger, he drives into every game, is there at every game. It's just interesting how it all kind of shifts. But yeah, big family, very active family, 5 boys, 1 girl. But yeah, love them to bits, and love just being a role model for them as well.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is there any pressures, or is there any like hard things being the eldest, having to be the role model? Like, do you feel any of those pressures? Like, are there any pressures? Like, there might not be.
Nah, I don't feel any pressures, because I feel like, I don't know, it's just, everything just comes pretty naturally to me, I guess, and it's just the way that it's always been. But I definitely, you know, like to set the bar high for my siblings, and I always say, like, if anyone beats my ATAR, that was my thing. I said, anyone beats my ATAR, I'll give you $250.
Yeah, what was your ATAR?
No one's beaten it.
Oh, you're still there. You're still there, man.
I also have 4 step siblings, and that extended to them as well. They're all younger, and no one's got there yet.
Did anyone come close?
I don't think so.
Gotcha.
Nah. So yeah, I always like to challenge them. And I guess, you know, being a mentor in regards to football stuff, but also just, you know, in general life as well is awesome.
I think that's so important, because there's obviously, like, naturally, like, you looking at where you've gone, you think, oh, well, competitively, physically, sport-wise, like that's where they're all striving. But the way that you go about it, like, no, actually education. Like my ATAR, you do that at $250. Like that's it seems like such a healthy way to look at it, bro.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, well, I was just pretty confident that no one was going to beat it.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
I was just like, just throw it away. But yeah, no, definitely. I think, like, obviously the bar's been set pretty high in regards to, sport, and, all my brothers are kind of working to achieve, big things, whether it's, football or things outside of football. But they're all trending really well. They're all doing really well in their own respects. Luke, who's, well, it goes me, Ben, Luke, then Matthew.
Yeah.
That's the age order. And Luke's doing really well at Collingwood VFL.
Gotcha.
Ben had a really good stint at Collingwood VFL and now is trialling at Preston.
Yeah.
And then Matthew's just ticking along, a little bit younger and
Gotcha.
Doing really well too. So like it's awesome to kind of see their journeys and see them aspiring for big things.
Yeah, I love that, man. Rewinding back to the grand final, the last thing I did want to talk about was I heard you talk about what Fly was talking about at the very start of the game, because he had his kid, right? He had a kid on the morning of the grand final, right? I remember you talking about it on Dill's podcast. Yeah. Around like how he came in, he told you guys that he just had his kid, and he's like, guys, like, I'm already a winner today. Yeah. And I think what you mentioned, or one of the takeaways that you took, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it was around almost like priorities of how like football is just a game, and that there is like a whole life outside of football. So regardless today, like, we're already winners. Yeah. Is that that's
exactly right. Yeah.
Am I right?
I think it was just the perfect segue to start, because obviously it's grand final day, the biggest game of your whole life, and there's so much angst and so much, nervous energy in the room, and to just start it with that just calmed everyone down.
Really?
And put things into, I think perspective is the word. Like, it's like, this is the biggest game we'll ever play, but a coach and a mentor of ours has brought something so special into the world, him and his partner. And it was just, I don't know, it was just like a real calming, like almost like tool that he used, is just sharing a story. Yeah. But yeah, that was definitely something that sticks with me, and I think played a role in, potentially us getting the win. Do you think that's like a big part of like why you guys are so successful, or even just like your personality in general? It's just like, there's football, but then you've also got a whole life outside of football. Like, I look at you and like your socials, like, you're doing so many cool things, like in the social media space, like modeling, like stuff with your fragrance style, like heading over to New York. Like, all the stuff seems so cool. Like, is balance a big part of what you look to achieve? Yeah, definitely. And I think in my early years, I didn't have that much balance, and I think that's fair enough when you first get in, because
what do you mean?
Well, like when I was 18, you get in and football becomes your full-time job. I never really worked a job before that. So it was just footy. Like, day off, I'd come in, do more gym. Yeah. Other day, I'd come in, do recovery, and it was just like go. And that was all I kind of did. And I think Fly's been awesome for the whole football club, because he really preaches that balance. And, one of our mantras is family first. And, I think that's something that we do really well, and something that I've worked on over the last couple of years specifically. And as you said, like, signed with a modeling agency, which has, brought a whole different avenue of work, which is awesome. And I really do enjoy it. And you meet some really cool people, and you get some incredible experiences. And I think it's, football has given me so much, and it's, I love that game to bits, but it just shows that there's so much else out there that we can tap into.
Man,
as well.
I love that. I do want to talk about the modelling, but beforehand, I love the environment that Fly's made for family. Like, even coming into the sheds after that Carlton game. Yeah. Everyone's around. Yeah. Like, it was such a cool, inviting experience. Yeah. And but it wasn't just family, it was friends as well. It just seemed like a really welcoming thing. I can't remember, might have been on Leggy's podcast that we did, or maybe Braz. I think when Fly first came into it, I think he got you guys to put things on your lockers around like what you like to do. Am I right in saying that? I can't remember. Maybe I'm butchering that. But
it might have been just Leggy. I don't know.
Yeah, it might have. It might have been. But it was around like finding guys in the team with like common interest.
Yeah.
And so say if guys like to play golf, then the boys would go out to play golf.
Yes.
And then it was a really great way to bring crew together.
Yep.
And then naturally like that flow and effect, like partners mingling, families mingling, coming into the sheds afterwards. Like I think because obviously like when players are happy off the field, they're way more likely to have positive success on the field, right?
100%. Yeah, no doubt. And I think that's, as I said, a family first mantra. Like there's one thing to say, but then there's another thing to actually do it and execute it, and have families feel like they're really part of the journey. And whether it's bringing the mums in on Mother's Day or the dads in on Father's Day to the our meetings, our final meetings, going into a game, having them run around with us on the captain's run, partners doing like these awesome get-togethers where all the partners of all the players get together and go out for drinks, and I think things like that are kind of like what makes a football club like a little community and a little family. And I think we're just building towards it so well, which is awesome.
It's even like some of my favorite coaches that I've had. They're not X's and O's like coaches.
No.
Like they're personality players. Like personality coaches, right? They're really invested into the athlete, into their team. They genuinely care. And, as a player, like you find someone who cares about you, you're naturally going to go over and above for them.
100%.
Right? Like,
it's 100%. Just logic, like, isn't it? Like, I guess it's just human nature. And I think if you show, that you're willing to include and respect someone's family, like that goes a long way as well.
100%.
Yeah.
Talk to me more about the modelling. Like, how did that come about? Was that something that was always top of mind when you first came in to AFL, like when you were 18, 19, or was it something that's progressed later on?
No, to be honest, it wasn't. In fact, I probably, like a lot of people, I feel like society's shifted where that whole influencing modelling scene was kind of almost frowned upon and had a bit of a negative persona around it. I know in sport, you would have experienced as well. Like it's bit like it was. I remember in my first few years, like if you posted a photo of you playing like a training photo, you get fined in a meeting, and it's like, it doesn't even make sense. But I think, we really shifted the culture especially when Fly came in, but it was already shifting. And then an opportunity came about through a friend who actually works for Colt, who's the modelling agency I'm with. Just set up a meeting and got along really well with all the guys that work there and the girls that work there. And just thought it was a really cool opportunity to kind of tap into a different space that, kind of, you don't really see it being done in the AFL landscape because it's kind of frowned upon a little bit. And you still get people, damning and commenting saying, "Oh, you should be training." And it's like, mate, I've been training 6 hours. It's my day off. Like, what are you talking about? But I guess it's just it's just another way to have a bit of balance. I think that word is so important, and it's great. I'm loving it so far.
What is it about the balance? Because like balance gets thrown around a lot, right? So like I get it. Like when you're at footy, like you're invested in footy, 100%. That's priority. But what is it about having the balance? Like why does having something that you're really passionate about outside of footy help your footy?
Yeah, well, I think you can get burnt out, and I've experienced that before. Where like I'm a big believer in like I got to where I am because I work hard. And I feel like I work harder than most people, so that's how I've gotten to the position I am today. And I think now it's about really narrowing that focus to like when I'm at the club, I'm going all out, and that's really tip in. And then, there's potentially opportunities on days off where I can do some accessories and things that can help out. But I think getting your head in the right space, and also like I feel like I get a lot of like pride, and I feel good when I do stuff outside of football as well. And also when football's not going that great. Like I didn't have, the best year last year. I probably went down in regards to output from the year before. And, like some points I'd come back from a game and I'd be pretty frustrated and peeved off, and my housemate would listen to me rant about how shit I'm going. And then I'd have a shoot the next day, and it was a 6-hour shoot, and I'd just forget about football for that period of time. And I think that's really healthy. And it's the same with the fragrance stuff. Like I love to smell good. I love people saying I smell good, and now I'm getting to put a bit of time into that as well.
And that's I do want to talk about the fragrance, but before we do, I think like not just for football athletes, but I feel like anyone in just like everyday life, like everyone's got jobs, right?
Yeah.
Having something that they can go to outside of that where they can detach. Like, I remember when I was playing footy, it was like you're in it.
Yeah.
And I had like other passions that like I loved surfing, I loved shooting, but I'd never really lent into the social media sites for all the reasons that you spoke about before, where the boys would just put shit on you.
Yeah.
And it's like such a little bubble, like so easy, so quickly to pull you back into line.
Yep.
And now I see the landscape of athletes like building their own personal brands and especially like leaning more into like that social media space. Because it's fun.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Like this podcast, man, like it is such a little passion project. Like I love this thing so much. Like, bro, I get more love out of this than any fucking game that I play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I could do this forever. Like here in Melbourne,
awesome.
we'll do like 4 podcasts and I'm genuinely like, I'm so excited. Like get to link with you, get to like really like get to know you on like a personal level.
Yep.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. Like, I remember I read a book by a guy called Ray Dalio.
Okay.
He's
What's it called?
It's called Principles.
Okay.
He's like he founded Bridgewater. I'm butchering. Anyway, one of the biggest hedge funds over in America. Wow. Best mates with Warren Buffett.
Oh, yeah.
And he created this book around like investing principles, but also life principles. And what he talked about was once you make like a certain amount of money, like no extra amount of money is going to make you any more happier. Yeah. But what he put his whole thing down to was like meaningful work and meaningful relationships. Yeah. I remember I read this page, I think I like screenshotted it, I wrote it out, and it was just like, once I saw that, I'm like, that's it. I was like, that's what I want to be doing for the next 10 years. Yeah. And so you're thinking like mental health and sport podcast, that's the meaningful work. But then the meaningful relationships, like you build them in football because you're around the boys so much. And then when you come out of it, even now, like you get to meet so many amazing people through this. Yeah. Get to catch up with like mates mostly, but then you have guys like yourself who we get to link up, and it's a beautiful thing. Yeah. I think that's such a cool place to live. And now when I look at you, who like super passionate around your modeling stuff, like fashion, you're talking more about like fragrances. I'm like, fuck, this guy's like in his flow. Because you know when people are like excited about things, like they sit up in their chair a little more, they got that energy. Yeah. And when I see that, I'm like, I love that. Yeah. Like that, because that energy is infectious, man.
Yeah. I think it's important to have a few like pillars to you as a human being. And I think I don't like the narrative around, like the old like shut up and dribble, like it's like you're a footballer, just be footballer. Yeah. It's like
stay in your lane. Like,
stay in your lane. It's like even our captain Darcy Moore, like he is such a well-rounded human being. He speaks beautifully. He's obviously a gun at football. He is extremely intellectually intelligent and has a lot of really, really smart, insightful outlooks on life. And I think as a leader of the club, that's really cool to see that. Yeah, bro. And it's like, not everyone has to be like that. Like that's not necessarily the be all and end all and the way that everyone has to be. But I think, even like speaking to him over the years, like I think, he just does that side of life really well, where it's just, there's just so many different things to him, like which is really cool.
Mate, my friend was talking about this. It's like it's like having layers to you.
Yeah, layers.
Man. Like once I heard it, it was just like you do really cool things. Like you as a football player, but you've also got like the fashion. Yeah. You also like have your family. You also love like traveling. You like doing all these different things. It's like I'd be more curious to talk to you. Respectfully, yes, as a footballer, but more so as like all the other stuff. Yeah. That's why I want to have this conversation. Yeah. And all the other conversations is like sport is an element to it, because obviously super influential in the space and people will lean on you and people will like hearing what you have to say, especially if it's positive messages. But because you are so influential, you can really push these positive messages about balance, about perspective, about friends and family and doing good things in the world. So I love that piece, bro. I think having layers to someone is awesome. Yeah,
no, completely agree.
Mate, talk to me about the fragrances. Because when I first heard about the fragrances,
where do we start?
It was like you guys were spraying it. Your own line in the lead into the grand final. Yes, that's how I first started.
Yeah.
Where did it actually start?
I don't remember a specific moment where it necessarily started, but I've definitely, my dad is just big on always, looking your best.
That's actually 30-minute timer. For those who are listening, we've got an old school antique clock in the corner. They're just doing, so it's actually every 30 minutes, not every hour.
There you go.
There you go.
He's always kind of preached, always stepping out and looking good and smelling good and little things like that. And I think it's just been like just the way that I've been brought up has played a role. But the fragrance stuff only really started maybe 2 or 3 years ago with a purchase I made. It was a Giorgio Armani fragrance. And I just started getting a few compliments on it.
Yeah.
And I just realized that compliment really just hits for me. Like, I don't know.
Well, you really enjoyed hearing it?
I get a lot of energy from it.
Yeah, I like that, man.
And then I just started to buy a lot, to be honest. And I always, from the start, I had this idea that I wanted to make a fragrance. And then I got this opportunity through Collingwood to actually go into a workshop and make one, which was awesome. And that was a scent that we used for a few of the games that we named Intelligence 3 because of my initials, IQ, and the number I wear, 3. Yeah. So that was kind of like how it started, and then
even that is a cool story.
It is,
in itself. I remember hearing you talk about it in depth. How like the boys would get around, everyone would get like a little spray before running. Boys are smelling good before running out. Imagine if you were the other team, like fuck, the Collingwood boys always smell so good.
I've actually had a few people like when I've been tackled, been like, "Bro, you smell good." Yeah. Like, in the game, and I'm like, "Yeah, thanks, bro."
Thanks, bro.
It's pretty wild, but I don't know. I just think for me, it's like I always speak about like look good, smell good, feel good, play good. Like I'm big on that. Like I need to feel good in my own skin to feel like I can go out there and perform. And I know not everyone's like that, but that's just what works for me.
Because naturally, like, maybe it's just rugby league player. I feel like AFL players, you guys are a little bit more well put together. I feel like rugby league players are a little bit more maybe old school and brutal, maybe a bit grubby. And
so
I don't know if it's
which is nothing wrong with that. I respect that as well.
Respect to the NRL boys. Like I've been there. Like, you know. But do you reckon there's any of the boys who like look at you and like, oh well, like Isaac's looking good, he's smelling good. It's like, maybe I need to lift my game up a little bit. Like, is there anyone that sort of like jumped on the train of like, you know what, this is a play?
I mean, maybe. There's definitely been, like, I'm massive on like lotion. Like I always use, that's like one of the things Dad has always said to me, like, you always got a lotion. Yeah. Can't be ashy.
Gotcha.
And
you'll be looking good when you're like 80, bro.
That's it. Yes. Yeah, it's good for the skin. Yeah. And I've definitely noticed there's been more and more boys using lotion around the club. Right. And there's been definitely a lot more fragrances, you know, in people's lockers, which gets me up and about. Like I love it. I love walking past someone and getting a whiff of something. Bruzzy, who's next to me, he loves his fragrance too.
He's a well put together guy, man.
And we always kind of share fragrances and have a chat about it. And I think, it's awesome. Like that's kind of where, you know, society is going.
Bro, do you think like looking back, like AFL and footy players like back in the day walking into the change rooms now, like boys are talking about what fragrances they're wearing, like how wild, like how the stereotypes have changed over time.
Definitely. Oh, the old heads probably don't get around it and probably think it's a bit silly. Like I've had a few people say, oh, all I used back in my day was Brute and like, you know, Old Spice and all that stuff. And I'm like,
Africa? What is it?
Lynx Africa, yeah, Christmas present, goat. But like, you know, that's just the way the world works. Everything changes over time and people have different outlooks. Like I don't think there's right or wrong, but that's just what works for me. And I'm happy with it.
Personally, I kind of like that we're phasing into this time of life for us. Like, with all due respect to the older boys, like I kind of like where we're sitting at.
Yeah, so do I. I think there's just, people can be themselves and there's not, you know, you're not really worried about getting, you know, shit for it. Really. And that's what's been happening, you know, in prior years.
What's the plan for the fragrances? Because obviously, like, you got to create your own, which was awesome. Like, you did the whole story, like, you did the whole thing, going to the grand final. What's the plan for it now?
Yeah, so that was like a little taster. That was like almost 2 years ago now, I think. But yeah, I've had some really exciting conversations with some different brands and some different people.
Gotcha.
And we've basically settled on, I've partnered with this, unofficially partnered with this company who basically build fragrances for brands. Sick. And we've settled on 3 final samples.
Oh, so you're going to come out with your own?
Yeah.
Bro, that's so sick.
Yeah, so it's coming along. So yeah, the samples come, so I had 11 samples made and I basically went around to all my friends and family and got them to rank them. Yeah. And got like a bit of a sample size of what people really liked. Nice. I should have brought them. It would have been cool if you just.
But I tell you what, before you came in here, because I don't have any cologne coming here, because obviously flew up from Bali and I'm on the carry-on. Yeah. And I was like, and obviously we had our conversation the other day. I was just like, I wonder if Isaac will bring some of his cologne.
Yeah, nah.
His fragrance. I was like, that would actually be kind of cool.
Yeah, no. Well, maybe next time we link, hopefully I'll actually have the final product.
Sick.
But So we've got 3 samples made at 15% and 18% alcohol, which is pretty strong.
Tell me.
Yeah, so there's an EDP, which is a perfume, and if it's over, I think it's like, it might be like 14 or 15% alcohol percentage. Yeah. It's a perfume, and then if it's below that, it's a EDT. So it's like de toilette. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Is it French?
I think it's French. I sound it.
You put a French accent on.
That's how people say it on the TikTok videos. I'm just copying them. Most of the TikTok videos.
Yeah.
And so I really want mine to be like a premium scent. Because that's the type of fragrances I like. I like a lot of the niche or higher end ones.
So that means you'll lean into the more higher alcohol content.
Yes, which means it's stronger. It's got more projection. And like I like when people almost leave like a scent trail. When you walk past someone, you can almost like smell them before you see them. That's what I love my fragrance to be like. So that's coming along. I think the samples come end of Jan, and then it's about like bottle design. Yeah. We've got the name already. Oh, that wasn't. The name's Nosuro, which is it means star in Tree, which is Ghanaian language.
Sick, man.
So that's why it's really cool, and that's why I'm so excited about this passion project, because it's kind of like me on like a bit of a journey around discovering a bit more around my culture. And like I've been to Ghana once when I was 9, had my 10th birthday over there. So like that's a long time ago now. And there's just so much more to learn. I can't speak the language, so there's, it's like, it really excites me around, kind of tapping into that side of my DNA and what makes me me through a fragrance.
But that's also so cool that you get to, like, it's your fragrance, like you get to smell it, like you get to do the whole thing, but also like the bottling, the packaging, like I'm sure it's going to be like super clean as well. That would be it's like a fun journey to go on, bro.
Yeah.
And then tying in like your culture as well. Like, bro, that seems so sick.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think there's something in the idea around having a story behind the fragrance. I think a lot of the fragrances that I like to buy, a lot of them, it's like, I spoke about this with my barber because he loves fragrance as well, and all we do is talk fragrance when he's cutting my hair.
Gotcha.
And it's like a sense of, it's like a way of like showing art and producing art, but it's through a fragrance, and it kind of tells a story. So like, I've got a few ideas around how I want to incorporate like my culture into each of the fragrances that I do bring out, and how each one's going to kind of tell a bit of a story. So I think especially in this day and age, people value that type of stuff when it comes to a product. So I'm really excited for this process to continue over hopefully the next 6 to 10 months, 8 months, whatever it is. I don't really have a timeline on it. I'd love for it to come out by the end of the year. Around Father's Day going into Christmas is probably the ideal situation. But like, I'm 25, I'm still young, and there's not really a rush with it. I just want to make sure if I'm going to do it, I do it right.
But it's like all good things take time, right? Like,
100%.
Like if you could just make a fragrance and you'd be in it tomorrow, it'd be like, oh, well, that's sweet.
Yeah.
But the fact that you've like done all like the hard work, and you could apply this concept to like footy or anything, right? And you've done so much hard work of like testing, seeing what works, what doesn't work, the packaging, reaching out to crew. I'm sure there'll be like a marketing strategy behind it as well. Like you have all these little things, and you're talking about like 10 months away, like potentially.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How will you sell it? Will it just be through like online?
Yeah. Well, like, this is the unknown a little bit. I honestly, I'm not sure. It could be online and in store. It could just be in store.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of options, and there's a bunch of conversations I need to have with some people around that. But I just want people to have it in their hands, and I can't wait for people.
Well, I'm thinking like, how do we support like that's, and also selfishly like, how do I get my hands on a nice little like fragrance as well? I think.
We'll do a round to a bunch of the the important people, and I'll definitely be sending out bottles.
Well, mate, if you ever need to come to the Gold Coast and do like a little pop up, that could be a beautiful little thing.
That could be awesome. Well, that's something that because I obviously, as a whatever influencer or whatever you want to call it, I go to some events and brand events, and I think that's like for me, like vision wise, that would be so cool to have a Nosuro event at a somewhere, and I've done it with Byredo, where I did an event and we all walked out with a bottle, and I just think it's a really cool way of sharing a bit about the journey of the fragrance being made, and then obviously being able to share it with people and have them walk out with a bottle and smell good. So
I think like those little experiences are so cool. I love that. I love seeing people like collaborating and like how do we help each other. Like I think that's a big thing. That's why I love the Goldie. We've got such an awesome group of mates that like some guys are in restaurant industry, some guys are in fashion. Heap of the boys are in sport and football, of like not just rugby but also like surfing as well.
Yeah.
And it's always like, how do we help each other? How do we collaborate? I've just done this thing, put it in the chat, boys will pepper it with comments and like the engagement, excuse me, will go through the roof. And it's like, there's no like tall poppy syndrome, like, oh, this guy's doing well. It's like, how do we help?
Yeah.
And I love that piece. And I especially love the fact, and me and my buddy, we were talking about this the other day where, especially like creating content, right? Like there's so much content being created and it's like you put so much hard work into creating like this beautiful film, doco, it might be like a reel, right? And then 10 seconds, it's gone. And people not forget about it because you can go back and look at it, but a lot of people will move on.
Yeah.
But then the ability to be able to create like a product that has a really cool story like yours.
Yeah.
I think is so cool.
Yeah.
Because you can look at it, it's like you see all the hard work and it's also timeless. Like you could have that.
It gives it longevity.
Forever. Like for years, which I think is awesome.
And that's the thing, I think for me, like I'm pretty ambitious and I'm a big believer in manifestation and speaking things into existence. And like I could have made that first bottle that I made, I could have, made 1,000 of them and sold it online and probably would have made, some good money, but there's no longevity to that. And I think for me, like this is like something I'd love to, transition into post-football.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm trying to, set things up now where, that transition, hopefully it's a while away, can be pretty seamless and I can go from one passion to straight into another.
Yeah.
I've got, big ideas around like as I spoke about lotion, so body lotions, like even like skincare stuff, candles, like, incense, like all that type of stuff. I think is awesome. So there's I've got big ambitions for it, but we just need to get it off the ground first.
Well, it's like you're creating all the things that you love. It's like it's in your environment or like, even like your ecosystem. We did a podcast with a guy called Ben Seymour yesterday. He's like an ultra endurance athlete. Dog, like he's got that dog.
Talk about a dog,
right,
those
well,
guys
he was
are different.
Rugby background, rugby union. Then went to ultra space. He did like 150 kr just off calf, and then his mate talked him into doing a 250k race in the desert over like 2 days. For like a whole story. Podcast was sick. Anyway, he talks about like creating a life that he wants and like the ecosystem. So he's a like endurance athlete, like kind of at a core now. He's been doing it for ages. But when he talks about building business, because like you and like me, like super entrepreneurial, super ambitious, but like doing it for good reasons. So he's got like fingers and pies in the recovery space. He's bringing out his own hydration brand and like nutrition brand. He's linking like his social media agencies that he's aligned with, wants to do more stuff in promoting athlete story. Like the hydration company is called Rise. And so he wants to talk to athletes who are like on the way up and like capture their stories, which I think is, so he talks about like the ecosystem of creating the life that he wants. And I looked at that and I was like, oh, that's so cool. And I kind of respond to that as well, where it's just like, sport has always been a part of my life, and so is like mental health and psychology is the whole reason like this is around. But I was like, well, what if like things that really help our mental health? And I look at like nutrition, like physical exercise, connection, relationships. It's like, well, if you're going to build a life, like what does that look like? And what are the things that you want to tap into? And I think about that so often. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Definitely.
Yeah. What do you do for your own mental health, to stay sane? Like we talked about balance. We talked about getting away from sport, like when you need to. Is there anything else that's top of mind that helps?
I think for me, like I've got such a great inner circle. Like obviously got a big family, so it's a pretty big inner circle. I've got like, I feel like it's pretty rare in this day and age. Like I've got a bunch of, 5 or 6 mates who I've been best mates with, like one since I was in grade 1, one since I was in grade 4, one since year 7, one since about year 10, and then the other since about year 7 as well. So there's about 5 that like I've, have known me for forever. And they're the same friends I've had the whole way through. And I think for me, like, you get a lot of external attention, there's a lot of pressure outside of, football and whatever, the modeling and all the other stuff. But like coming back to those guys, I think it just always grounds you and keeps you in a good headspace. And often, that like they're great people for me to vent to when I need to. Like my housemate probably hears a fair bit of me venting after a shit game or when I'm frustrated about something. But yeah, I think just having the right people in your corner is just awesome. And I think that's something that I'm like so grateful for, because I've got my family as well as like my friends who basically are my family as well. So.
But you're comfortable having those conversations with like your roommate? Because or even because you hear these stories all the time of especially guys talking more to guys. And I think it is changing. I think stereotypes have changed from when we were growing up, especially from when our old boys were growing up.
Yeah.
But like the ability to be able to have these conversations, still so many guys struggle with,
Definitely.
with saying.
Yeah, well, I think like just like my friends always tell me, like I'm not an overly emotional person just in general, like that's just me. But like I feel 100% comfortable having those conversations. And I think as a friendship group, we've actually done a lot better in like almost like spending time and having these conversations and setting them up to like dig a bit deeper into like, what are the layers to you as a person? What are your ambitions? And these deeper conversations are, as you said, like I feel like in past times men don't really have. And I think obviously the work you're doing in this space is one of the things that's kind of leading the change. But like in this day and age, we speak about, especially at the club, like we're so much more in tune with our emotions and digging deeper and, kind of opening up a little bit more, which I think is also really powerful.
Well, it's also like when you're able to be vulnerable with someone, like they're more likely to be vulnerable with you as well.
Yes.
Super weird. It like opens up this like little gate or little bridge and you're able to have this conversation. I remember one of my really good friends, Kalen Ponga, he was talking about, he's at Newcastle.
Yeah, he's a star, isn't he?
Dog. He's a legend. Like similar to you, loves fashion, loves like
he's
content.
very cool.
He's a cool dude. But he was talking about what they did at Newcastle a couple of years ago. You might have done something similar. It's called like the Triple H, like hero, hardship, highlight.
Yeah.
And he said he loved it so much because obviously from like he's curious. Like one of the players would get up, or maybe a handful of the players would get up on the Monday morning. They would come in. Some of the younger guys are a little bit nervous. Some of the older guys are fine. But they talked about a highlight, or it could be of their life, of their year, a hero, someone they really looked up to, but then also a hardship that they've gone through. And guys were being super vulnerable, like super emotional. And he said it was so great. And the vulnerability aspect was awesome because it opened up these things and it allowed the boys and the coaches and the staff to become closer. And they actually did better on the field because they realized that the boys were more connected. And so you look at like the Collingwood boys, like you guys look so connected, right? Like you guys obviously had really great success the year prior, and I looked at it, I was like, well, obviously, because you guys are so connected.
Yeah, well, we've done similar activities to that. We do like a who am I, so that's like you can take it wherever you want.
Yeah.
And you kind of get up in front of not only the whole football team, but the whole football department, so staff as well.
Yeah.
And there's no pressure to share or overshare. You can do whatever you want, and people kind of tell people about their story. And heaps of them have got ended up in people in tears, and whether it's in people like watching and listening or the person speaking. And there's some incredible stories you have no idea about.
Bro.
And as you said, it just breaks down that barrier and allows for conversations to happen that, again, breaks down more barriers and connections build. And I think definitely like, a big hats off to Fly for bringing that stuff in, because I think that's a big reason as to why the connection was so strong in that 2022 year, 2023.
Right.
And why it's continuing to build each year.
But also like the ability to be able to create an environment where guys do feel comfortable. Like that's like
that's hard to do.
That can be tricky,
100%.
especially when you're navigating so many big personalities.
Definitely.
As well. Like I remember when me and Brazzy did our podcast a little while ago, and he talked about his OCD for like the first time publicly, and that was so awesome because what he talked about was the conversations that he had with you boys in there, and I was like, mate, it was obviously a wild conversation to have, but mate, the flow-on effect after that and the conversations that me and Brazzy had afterwards was around how many people had reached out to him and were reaching out to us about similar situations. So parents sitting down with their kids who had just been diagnosed with OCD, like, well, you got Braden Maynard who's gone through the exact same thing. You're not weird. You're not unusual. You got Brazzy's in the exact same scenario.
Yeah.
So it makes it fine and it makes it normal and it takes the stigma out of that conversation. There's people who like, they didn't know how to articulate it, right? Like his thing was checking, like, did I lock the back door? you got so many people like, fuck, I had no idea. Like, and so the conversations, like they compound over time and they spread further out. That's why I think it is awesome.
Yeah, well, I had no idea until he shared in the Who Am I that he did. So I'd played with him for 4 or 5 years and like considered him like a good mate at the club. And yeah, like for him to share that, it just again like breaks down a barrier and he becomes like, you know, someone that, as you said, people can look up to and just encourages other people and especially other men out there to have, you know, vulnerable conversations because you never know who's listening and how it can impact them. And yeah, so shout out Bruzzy. We love that guy.
Bro, we love that, man. Bro, mate, thank you. Thank you so much for today. Before we wrap things up, what do you think is the biggest thing that we didn't talk about today that you'd like to touch on? Is there anything that stands out?
The biggest, to be honest, no. I think we've conquered all the pillars of Isaac.
It's been a beautiful conversation, man. I've really enjoyed this.
No, I'm super pleased and super happy, and I think, yeah, you've done a mountain of work to ask the right questions. So shout out to you.
Well, man, thank you. I really do appreciate you coming on. It's been really cool to get to know. And mate, I enjoyed getting to know the layers of Isaac.
Yeah, really cool. I'm like an onion, baby. There's layers.
Let's go. Thank you, bro. Cheers.
Thanks, fella.